Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hi friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the good fortune of connecting with Talbot Gee, CEO of HARDI, the Heating, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration Distributors International Association. Talbot is one of those association executives that wakes up every morning trying to figure out how to push the envelope of member services. To say this guy is full of energy would be an understatement. While he seeks to drive, he is equally adept at listening to the challenges shared by his members. They have become his family over the years, and you can detect a strong sense of gratitude when he speaks about the relationships he has built. I always love catching up with Talbot, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by InSequel Distribution Software. InSequel is a fully functional distribution-based software package. I only recommend software packages that were purpose-built to serve distribution, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. Economy doesn't mean compromise. This company is on the cutting edge of distribution-friendly applications like VMI on mobile devices, mobile signature capture, mobile CRM, warehouse management software, and e-commerce development. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than InSequel Distribution Software at www.insequel.com. That's INXSQL.com. Hey, Talbot, welcome to Distribution Talk. Thanks for taking the time to be with me.
Awesome, Jason. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure, man. Always got to get that Libra out there. It's just kind of a fun fact for everyone in the audience that Talbot and I do share a birthday together. Not quite the same year, but, it was actually kind of funny when that happened. We were looking at each other like, really? October 6th? Really?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Same barber too, right?
So we do have the same barber. Yeah, absolutely. Been that way for a long time, my friend. It's just the way it is. Get up in the morning and you don't have to worry about the shampooing or, drying that hair. Just boom, we're out of there. So, hey, I just wanted to jump in and talk a little bit about your background. You've been around the association management world for a long time. And I think it's interesting, why you chose that, that particular field coming out of school. And then were you always wholesale distribution or where did that transition come? So take it away, sir.
Sure. Well, probably not totally unique, but very few people find this industry. This industry finds you in terms of association management. And,
absolutely. Yeah.
And it can track people with interests and talents all over the map because that's kind of what we do. It is all over the map sometimes. So ironically, I came out of college and was doing some things. And like a lot of people, I knew more about what I didn't want to do than what I did want to do. And So I took fantastic advice from a very successful cousin of mine who said, go to an executive temp firm in the city and go work for them. And you're going to learn a lot about what types of environments, jobs, and everything. Funny enough, one of my first assignments was with a trade association in Washington, D.C. Spent 2.5, 3 weeks with them working on projects. Went on to did a few other clients. And then they called me and they said, hey, we'd love to bring you back full time. You interested? And I said, yeah, you guys were great. It was a great time. Lo and behold, they were wholesalers of long distance minutes back in the day. If you remember that.
Oh, really? No. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was with them through the boom and bust of broadband and all that sort of stuff. But then one of the vice presidents they brought in was actually a former executive director from Fernley & Fernley back in my hometown of Philadelphia, PA.
Sure.
And I had gotten married. We were thinking about starting to start a family, but we weren't anywhere near family. So this VP gave me a connection to Fernley. I ended up in Philadelphia. And there, that is what's called an association management company. So it manages multiple clients, multiple industries, everything like that. Lo and behold, I end up working on a team that was all wholesale distributor associations.
Gotcha.
So I all of a sudden was immersed in 5 different industries, all in wholesale. From there, that community is a small one, as you well know, Jason.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the awesome Don Fredberg found me and recruited me out to Columbus, Ohio for HARDI. And that was way back in 2006. And then when Don officially decided to retire in 2010, that's when I ended up in this role.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that as well. I remember when you were with Fernley, and then that was really early in my career. That was way, way back. But when you were with Fernley, what were some of the other verticals that you were in?
Yeah. So industrial automation, security hardware, general aviation, horticultural supplies. There was a few other industrial ones that I didn't really touch as much. And then I even ended up with a financial analyst for a little bit for a while there, which was kind of interesting. Totally different.
Yeah, very different. Yeah, no kidding. And then, when Don, kind of fun fact, he was the guy who gave me my first speaking gig. So that was my first speaking gig. Don had approached it, came up to me, and just the nicest guy in the world. Just came up, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in, man. Give it a shot.
That's great. Great guy. And the best part was he put on, for me, on steroids, what I didn't realize was really deep down inside me, which was this growing kind of love and passion for the role of wholesale distributors. And Don oozed that, right? Like, I mean,
absolutely,
he couldn't avoid it. And it was contagious and infectious. And then it just lit a fire under me. And it's kind of weird to say, it's kind of what I think about almost all the time, is the role and the value of the wholesalers. So it's interesting how that works.
Well, it is. And I think that, over time that your ideas are shaped around, they change and they evolve, and you get to see your membership change and evolve. And then okay, now what can I do to help them get to that next stage? And I mean, both of us, our roles are very similar in that way, that we look at that evolution, and we're looking for those places that, how can we give them a little nudge in this direction, or open a door for them going one way or the other? So again, you've had the opportunity to work on both sides, big association management firm versus individual. What's the difference? I mean, how does that compare?
Yeah. On one hand, and you're in a management company with multiple clients, you're never bored, right? But on the other hand, I found that me and schizophrenia don't work real well. Like that. That was
totally.
Hard, right? So I truly love and value how I can dive deep here at HARDI, where the management company, there's only so deep you physically can go, right? And not to mention, this is a larger organization, more resources. We just simply do more right here with a lot of this stuff than most organizations are able to do. Those really unique dynamics within this channel, I mean, I can get really down and dirty into them, which is cool. I love it.
Sure. No, absolutely. I would agree with that. I think that sometimes, when you go into a large entity, and I've known several people that are, very successful in those entities, but you definitely have multiple different hats you've got to wear, and you've got to, jump back and forth and keep all that straight. And if you're lucky, you can do combined events and things like that to try and keep your sanity just a little bit more. But
an interesting thing about that, Jason, though, it's and credit to the teams I've gotten to work with at HARDI. This is so different than the HARDI that I came into in 2006 or even 2009 or whatever. That HARDI wasn't a whole lot different than maybe some of my larger clients in the AMC model, right? But since then, I mean, we are now, we're more than 3 times the size we were then now. And the depth and complexity of what we do for the members is multiple times greater. It didn't start that way. It's just kind of evolved and grown that way. And again, to the credit of the team, there's so many people here who know things that I know nothing about. And that's what makes it so great, right? Like they're real experts in what they do.
Well, you look at, for example, analytics, looking at what Brian's doing, and that wasn't around. I mean, that wasn't anything that the old HARDI, if you will, had going, analytics. Then you got, again, your educational offering is much, much deeper than it ever was. Thank you, actually. I appreciate that. That's good for me. But has the political side, has that always been a part of the HARDI framework?
No, that's a funny story too. The association for decades had really kind of prided itself on not getting involved in that, and actually kind of almost bragged about outsourcing a lot of that to NAW, who does a fantastic job on the global business issues, the cross-cutting type issues. But NAW is very disciplined about never getting into the sector-specific issues, right? Well, ironically, in 2006, the year I get there, we end up having some sector-specific issues that start to pop up. And Don notices that I had done just a little bit of government affairs stuff with previous clients. And he says, hey, can you look at this and get in this? And then our members just honestly ate it up and engaged so well, so effectively, so passionately that we kind of found that we actually were pretty good at it. And now I would argue if we announced tomorrow that we were out of the government affairs game, we'd probably lose a healthy portion of members who view it as one of our primary benefits now.
I would agree with you. Yeah, I've definitely heard, anything from a congressional fly-in to, again, you stepping up there and providing, testimony. We'll dive into that in a second here. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of different evolution, different offerings. And I think even to the thought of actually, employee development inside of member companies that you all have provided assistance there. I mean, it's really looking again for those areas where we can give them a little nudge or a little, help in one direction or another, because let's face it, the membership, privately held business, it's tough. And sometimes you don't always see those new opportunities and those openings. And I think that's really where, you all come in and say, hey, have you ever thought about this? Very similar to my role as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. You talk about, again, evolution. I guess I'm the old guy now because when I got here, it's interesting. Part of our role was almost filling for the fact that a lot of our member companies didn't have an HR executive or an expert, didn't have a marketing expert, right? Definitely didn't have an analytics expert, right? And so we tripped into some of those things just simply because it was resources most of our members didn't have. Now you fast forward to where we are today. Now our role is different because now you have more and more of these companies employing experts, and they look to us to give that community the best practices, the professional development for those individuals. And by the way, they're there for a reason, so you better deliver value too. So if they have people who's now are looking at analytics, they expect analytics. So we better find a way to deliver them something they can't go find themselves or wouldn't come up with on their own.
Right. You have to be able to have something, world class. I mean, you have to have something that's just, it's like, wow, we could not have probably pulled this off ourselves. This is what we rely on you for. And another thing I think is really interesting about your organization, because I've been around your organization quite a bit, and I've seen a lot of different associations, obviously, good, bad, and the ugly. And I think one of the things that's interesting about yours is that you tend to reach out into your membership versus waiting for them to come to you. So I think that that's another area where you get a little bit more leverage and frankly, you get more stickiness with your members. I mean, they enjoy that. They're going to get pushed. They're going to get tapped and say, what are you doing? What are you doing here or there? So they don't get to sit on their hands and just be part of the club.
Yeah. So again, that's kind of one of those just dynamics of just how our business is so different now than the way it was before, right? So before, even just as far back as say 2006 or whatever, you could have a bunch of distributors in a room who would actually raise their hand and say something or ask a question that, that may be a little exposing of themselves, right? But these days there's competitors everywhere. People's territories overlap more than they used to. You're not going to get that open forum like you used to, where they're going to really give you something insightful, either a question or a direction in that venue. So we had to adjust and learn how to be more consultative and to some degree more proactive and start thinking like, okay, based on what we see, we think this might be a problem. Let's go out and figure out and get some validation whether or not this is an issue or not that we need to spend time on. But it really wasn't, again, it's not necessarily like we sat in this room and came up with this brilliant plan. It's more of the dynamic was, you know what, we used to put people in this room and have these great conversations. And now we put people in these rooms. There's more people in the room, but there's fewer people saying anything, right?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that, there is that fear. I think that's the thing that hampers a lot of interactions in your organization. And I think about that and I'm like, guys, just a little sharing goes a long way, just open it up just a little bit. So,
right. Yeah. But I get it. I mean, you've lived this more so than I have, but like even a well-run business still is always riding a little bit of a razor's edge, right? And these days, I mean, geez, just what we've seen in the last 18 months with ownership changes and consolidations and M&A activity. I mean, you never know. That dude you thought that was a non-competitor buddy of yours that used to sit next to you all the time, they could end up either owning you or vice versa.
Or dropping right in your backyard and you're like, whoa, yep. Hold on a second here.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I want to step back if I could, about that congressional testimony that you did. Was it in 2019?
Yeah, I think that's about right. It's probably the last time
Yeah.
I could fit into a suit. Yeah.
Trust me, I know the feeling, my friend. COVID 1922, whatever, was not great to me. Tell me a little bit about that experience, because it had to be, a little bit of a different experience for you.
Well, so this was on workforce development, essentially, like how to get more talent into the skilled trades and to some degree industrial sectors. But the more important lesson of this whole thing is how it all came about, right? So we've been involved in government affairs for quite a while, but
Sure.
we didn't actually start a PAC, a political action committee, until maybe like 10 years into our government affairs activity. And long story short, it was actually my new congressman who invited me to testify because we had known us through the campaign side when he first ran. Otherwise, we might not have known him or forged that relationship. Then he realized the stuff we were doing on workforce, he and his staff were excited about it. And that's how I ended up getting invited. So for all the organizations and companies out there, I know people get uncomfortable when you talk about the connection of money and politics, but there's a reason that all exists. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's not all bad. I mean, some of that works for the way it's supposed to. And that congressman is still a great ally of ours. He works hard. He does the right things in our opinion for our policy interest, and got us that stage for the testimony. But, if nothing else, being passionate alone isn't quite enough, right? You got to be kind of a part of the process that can benefit them when they need it too.
Well, and I think that if you look back at, from a member benefit standpoint, these individual member owners do not want to go do what you just did. That is not a comfortable place for them to be. Now, I will say that you all are kind of bridging that gap a little bit between, politics and that small business owner in that congressional fly-ins and things like that. I think that's actually kind of one of the more fascinating things, because when I was growing up in the business, we didn't even consider that just wasn't going to even be a part of our world. But today it is. It's a very big part of your members and what they do with you.
Yeah. And they've gotten so savvy with it too, by the way. I mean, I will say a very fond memory. Our very first fly-in, I think, was in 2008 or so. And I have never seen a collection of such successful, brilliant business leaders with years and years of experience, absolutely scared spitless, as they were. I mean, sweating bullets, nervous, like kind of like my kids for, their first big game or something like that. It was amazing. Right. And it was also endearing too, honestly. I mean, I'd never seen these people that I viewed as kind of titans of industry have a moment of vulnerability, right? And they were literally, nervous and scared. But I tell you what, they are so savvy now. They do a great job. Alex and our team do an amazing job briefing them up. But all we ask them to do is know your business. We don't ask them to know all the details of the policy. Know your business, know your numbers, and then just go have the conversation. And they are so good at it. They are amazing. I love watching them do it. And another really cool part has been how many companies have started to use the fly-in as part of their executive development program. So then they'll bring young execs in and they'll ask them to respond. Like they want them thinking like an owner or thinking like the one who, whose neck could be in the noose if the policy goes the wrong way, right? And it's so cool to see that. And then we also have that one aspect of the family businesses too. A lot of it is family business or tax issues. Well, it's awesome if you have a next generation who's on the path to be the next leader. Well, then they better understand how all this policy impacts them and make those relationships with those representatives who have a big impact on the future of their businesses. It's awesome to see. They do a great job with it.
And the amount of money if they want to transition that business. I mean, that's, that really, that's where it gets down to. I mean, sometimes, I who live over on the West Coast here, we feel pretty insulated over here, we don't have to worry about that. But, to your point that these decisions being made will affect us, whether we like it or not. And if you're not informed, then I think then it's going to blindside you in many cases. So, no, it's great. I mean, I love seeing them, start to become advocates for themselves, where I don't think, maybe they did rely heavily on you all to do that for them, but now they're getting that opportunity and getting that understanding on how to do that.
Yeah. And I should give them credit on one other part too. We've always advocated from the beginning that policy is not where you try to derive a competitive advantage, right? Because it's really hard to find a lot of sustainable examples of where that's really actually worked. Now, there are some glaring ones here or there, but they're few and far between. More often than not, efforts to do so have tons of unintended consequences and ramifications that end up being a net negative in the end. And so it's an awesome part of our community that was formed because of the fly-in and the government affairs work. Bitter competitors could be in the same room and same office advocating on the same message to their representative because they both understand the risk is shared amongst both of them, right?
Sure.
That's a really powerful thing. Plus, we also bring a venue where our suppliers will be in the room too. So then you can have multiple sectors of the channel all singing off the same sheet of music, but you're getting an idea like, okay, well, if you do this to the way they value inventory, then me as the supplier can't sell them as much stuff, which then hurts me over here. You know what I'm saying? It brings it together. So yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because I miss it dearly. We had to cancel it last year because of COVID, but I cannot wait for 22. And it's nice to kind of reminisce about exactly how excited and juiced that gets you when you do that week.
Nice. No, that sounds great, man. Stepping back, talking about that workforce, that was really the area around your testimony. Was that primarily around driving people into the trades, or did it also have spillover to our organizations as well?
Right. So we participate in an industry alliance, HVACR industry, the alliance of organization leaders. And we all had partnered on some big research several years ago, which really documented exactly how big the skills gap was and was going to be in the future, right? And that was really focused at the contractor level, the technician level, where the most acute, but it forced every organization to think long and hard about themselves and their own situations too. And so therefore, all the organizations from that alliance all came out with different types of workforce initiatives and things like that. The big one that came out from us was the development of the documentary called Hot Commodity, which you can see on Amazon Prime and the big streaming services. It's a fantastic, professionally produced documentary, but it kind of hits all the tones, right? And the whole point here is we're actually the biggest little industry that you never heard of, right? And you could be a supremely educated college graduate who could find an amazing career in this industry, or you could be someone who never once even considered or wanted to go to college, maybe even barely got through high school, and you could end up being a multimillionaire in this industry if you got the right stuff and you work hard at it, right? So we can take all. We can take all. It doesn't matter where you came from, what your background is. There's a job for you in this space. And the documentary really tracks actually a handful of actual employees in different areas in our industry and their path and their journey, and then what they've done with it in their career in the industry. It's a beautiful piece. It's really cool. It's open source. It's open to anyone who wants to use it. We encourage members in their own recruiting to take whatever they want from it. They can use parts of it. They can cut it. They can do whatever they want. But it's fun to see. It's no talking head. It's actual people in the industry who said, this industry changed my life, right?
It's fantastic. I will absolutely link that in the show notes just so people can get to it, because that's fantastic. I've been a long-term advocate of recruiting younger and younger into the organization. And do you know Steve Dice?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Steve and I had a conversation on this show, and we were talking a lot about this issue about recruiting into distribution, that my favorite slogan is, distribution has a PR problem, that we just don't attract very well. And he was talking about, not necessarily always attracting into college, but really is starting to go even deeper than that and looking at the high schools and trying to create relationships with guidance counselors in high school. And unfortunately, a lot of guidance counselors say, you go to college. That's their, that's really their one trick pony. But some of them have been open to his organization, and those who maybe aren't mature enough, or it's just not a good fit for them. Hey, come take a look at us, and to that point you made earlier, he was saying that, what other place could you at maybe 22, 23 years old, be running a branch location with, P&L responsibility of, $16 to $20 million in revenue and making a very good income at 22 to 23 without a college background. I think that is phenomenal. And that's one of those things that you just got to keep shouting out there. It's like, hey, look, we're pretty good over here.
Yeah, we should have put you in the documentary. You nailed it.
Hey, I pretty much parroted Steve. So, I just stole his stuff.
Listen, I've even told my daughters, I think the branch manager position is one of the coolest things in the economy. I know it's hard and it's not for everybody, but man, a lot of people have and can do great things in that role. I think it's amazing opportunity. And the whole concept of workforce and attracting talent and all like that, you're right. Distributors in general have never been great at really kind of selling themselves, but it is inherently local, which is why we as an alliance pushed back on the concept of kind of like the Got Milkish campaigns or broadband or anything like that. It's inherently local. And the thing is you're that branch manager in your town, wear your logo gear and be out with it. And everyone likes to know, like, what do you do, whatever. Well, talk about it. And it's amazing when they start to connect people they know, respect, like, and trust with a job or a profession. Then all of a sudden the job and profession starts coming to mind when they have people who are looking for a place to go, right? So be your own personal advocate in your community, and you'll be amazed at how things will start to bubble up that way.
Oh, it's fantastic. No, I couldn't agree with you more. And I love to see that. I love to see people introducing themselves, at a restaurant. They like a particular server and they develop a relationship, and all of a sudden, have you ever thought about changing careers?
Oh, yeah.
I'm hiring. Like, I'm always hiring. In fact, that should be the t-shirt right now. I'm hiring. I want you to come look at me.
Honestly, I wish I'd kept count. I've lost count of how many bartenders, waiters, hostesses, hotel service people that I've watched a member recruit, like right then and there. I just sit back. I'm like, you can sell ice to Eskimos. I love it.
Yeah, I love this. Yeah. No, I love seeing that kind of stuff. No, it is fantastic. But again, I really want to see people drive that as much as possible and really become better recruiters. We've been hiring for a long time. Distributors can hire, but that's not what we need today. We want recruiters. And it's interesting watching the evolution, as we use that word one more time, but the evolution of that recruiting and that onboarding and bringing people into the organizations, they're getting so much better. Oh my God. The members are getting so much better at this. And I'm looking at LinkedIn postings and I'm like, oh, that's clever. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Well, the cost to lose is too high now. So you got to get it right.
Totally changing gears here. A few years ago, you all as a board and as an organization decided to expand internationally. And now have HARDI Mexico. Can you tell me a little, because it was very interesting when you started down this trail and you talked about it, and it's been going. I mean, this is not just yesterday's news. It's been a little while now.
Yep. And an interesting side note on this, really maybe what the most key individual for making that actually get off the ground and work is a leader, a business unit leader for a manufacturer who here in the US doesn't sell a thing to any of our members. Ironically, like their business model's just different here in the US than it is there. But he was the catalyst for really getting us over the top. So yeah, we started HARDI Mexico a handful of years ago, and it is its own division. It's a subsidiary essentially of the association. We'd kicked the tires on this several years ago and honestly weren't ready. And then it came back around again, and we did it much better. We had a better approach to it. And this one manufacturer in particular, the next best thing he did was he introduced us to Guitze Messina, who is our executive director for the Mexico division. And he's a force of nature. I mean, Guy
is awesome.
Unbelievable, right? So we were very open with Guy. We're like, Guy, we're literally greenfielding this thing, right? I mean, this is a chips on the come line, right? Like we have no idea what's going to happen here, where it's going to go. And he, in just a handful of years, has made it successful, profitable, not huge, but doing well. But here's the most important thing, making a huge impact in that market, not only for the manufacturers who sell into it, but more importantly for the distribution channel, which arguably was incomplete at best. And now he is the number one advocate for that two-step model in Mexico. And we're seeing the best, strongest companies embrace it, grow with it, and run with it. And more manufacturers looking at how do they employ that in their distribution strategy. I can't think of anything that could be more core to our mission than what Guy and the division is doing down there. And it's paying benefits. At some point in time, Mexico has the chance to be kind of the epicenter for our industry's distribution south of the U.S. border. I mean, they're doing that well.
Yeah, absolutely. And very fortunate to find that individual. I had the opportunity to spend some time with Guy, and absolutely, I would agree, he's a force of nature. And the thing is, though, the guy can absorb stuff, though. I mean, he spent a lot of time in seminars, and so he and I traveled a bit and asking questions and absorbing information. It's fantastic. So, no, I think you got a really great pick there. And I think when we look at our distribution responsibilities, we tend to, look at North America. That tends to be where we play. But then adding on HARDI Mexico and I don't know if you're looking at any other particular entities or geographies, but maybe you won't disclose that at this point in your life. But no, I think that your members look at that and say, okay, I'm with an organization that, is forward thinking. And that's really got to be what you all do today.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think probably what most of our members would say is, my gosh, I have met some incredible business people that I didn't even know existed, right? And we get these leaders from our Mexican distributor companies come up, and they're brilliant people. And a lot of our members, once they get to know them, they start to especially appreciate how successful they've been in arguably one of the toughest business environments you could possibly be in. And it's kind of one of those things. What are we complaining about up here sometimes?
Totally. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So those relationships have been awesome. So Gee facilitates these exchanges. So distributors will actually go to one another's facilities across the border and do deep dives
really cool.
and everything like that.
Okay.
And then every year, one of our distributors hosts the Mexican membership to come up, and they spend almost a week in their facility. And it's going through how that U.S. company does business. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
I want to say he and I talked about that. I want to say that was a Wisconsin-based member that, that was the person. Right. Yeah, I recall that. Yeah. Very good. Well, cool, man. And before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit just about that member engagement. I think, again, looking at different associations I've worked with in the past, there are some that are really engaged with their members and where their members really, believe in what you're doing. And then others that, maybe don't have that type of relationship. How have you fostered that? I mean, specifically with your actions, what do you do to foster that type of relationship? Besides take them golfing and, doing all of the fun stuff that we like to do.
Well, honestly, it's been a running joke for a while that every year the number one focus is figuring out what's my next potentially job costing decision or I'm going to make, right? And basically, our mentality has generally been, I'd rather take a chance that would challenge the members and engage the members than play so safe that there's really no added value to being a member, right? So we are oftentimes looking for the things that we think are coming down the pike and are an issue to the members, and we'll throw it out there. And sometimes they don't like it, or sometimes they don't agree, or sometimes they will tell you that your premise is just completely off. And honestly, I would take that any day of the week over, kind of not even being on the map and then not even really caring or thinking about what we're doing. So it's not always perfect, but the other part of it is, we've spent an awful lot of time over these years becoming a much more consultative organization. Mm-hmm. And again, part of it is the competitive nature of, and with much more proprietary work that you have to do now today than you used to. And that helps a lot too, because then you really can have these deep one-on-one conversations about what's challenging that company? What's the goals of that company? You're not always having to stay at 50 or 30,000 feet. You're getting into the weeds for them. I mean, honestly, like when I first got here, I don't think anyone on the team even knew what NDA stood for. Whereas now we have an NDA template and we use it every week, right? Because we're doing something with members that we have to agree that only stays here, right? And nothing else. So
I'm signing more and more of them every day. So
yeah. So I don't know if that's the exact answer to that question, but honestly, I think it's more about making an impact than always entirely just kind of making people happy, right? And I think that is maybe what's driven some of the engagement, positive and negative, but it always makes us smarter. It always makes us better. And hopefully it's always making the organization better and more relevant too.
Yeah, you're more than the trade show and a cocktail party.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So if you were to, again, now thinking specifically about your career, what would you say to a person coming out of school, kind of not sure, but they've heard about association management? What would you tell them to do?
Well, I should probably ask all the people here. We kind of had that conversation with every one of them, right? And I don't think we've ever hired anyone who is actually from an association management background. And so what I would tell them is, The coolest part about this is there are no one-trick ponies in this business, right? So again, at least our model here is we try to staff with skills and expertise that are uncommon among our members, right? So that's why we don't actually care so much about how much you know about the association model. We care about what value add you bring in that environment, right? So then the cool part is when you start to see people who've never been in an association life get out there and start meeting the members, meeting the customers, and realizing what amazing people and businesses they are, they just fall in love with it. The members are my best retention tool. It certainly isn't me in Columbus, Ohio. It is honestly the members, because they just love serving and working for the members. And man, when you solve a problem for them, it's like best friends for life, right? They're the most gracious people you could ever meet. So love them.
Yeah. Incredibly blessed to be a part of this as well. I absolutely fell in love with, family business, not only for my own, but, the people that I've met over the years, just salt of the earth, just the greatest people. It doesn't matter what their wallet looks like. It's just, man, they're just very, very good people. So.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, Talbot, thank you so much, my friend, for taking the time there. And as I can see the sunset dropping in your background on a beautiful Columbus day, I'm going to let you go here, but I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate you doing this.
You bet. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider hitting that subscribe button. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area on your podcast application or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by Andrea Klunder and Edwin Ruiz at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, The Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.